The first form in your section is a statement of fieldwork experience requirements. So these are all things that you agree to do in your fieldwork experience. I think probably the most important thing is that you know that you are expected to be at your fieldwork placement site for a full 8 weeks of full-time experience. We state that it is unpaid because the Fieldwork placement site is under no obligation from our standpoint to pay you. Some people do have paid placements. Maybe they were working in a school as a paraprofessional before they had their fieldwork placement lined up, and they're going to do their fieldwork placement there while they're still employed by the school district. We will not interfere with that, but you are not being paid through any arrangement with MTI. You do not quit your fieldwork placement or start coming in late or leaving early because you have obtained your 100 hours. You're expected to be there 8 weeks full time. Your fieldwork supervising SLP sets the days and times that you need to be there. If you absolutely have to take a day off, you let your fieldwork supervisor know. We have a form for you to complete in Trajectus to make that request, and your supervising SLP can decide to have you make that day up after your 8-week placement has ended. Typically that happens if there are competencies yet that need to be addressed or additional experience is required or requested. Sometimes I've even had students request to stay on for an extra week or two at a fieldwork placement, and we do allow that. You need to show up ready to go, have all of your materials and activity plans ready for the day. And we talked a little bit already about a form to complete if you are going to need time off. Sometimes you wake up in the morning and you've got a temp of 102, or your tonsils are swollen or you can't talk. And if you need to be absent on an emergency basis, you need to contact your supervising SLP and me. I know it seems cumbersome to have to contact 2 different people. That's actually pretty typical. Many times SLPAs working for a school setting will be employed by some type of an education cooperative or a multi-district group, and they need to contact their direct supervisor there and then also contact a building administrator, maybe 2 building administrators, to let them know they will not be there that day. You'll only do things that your SLP supervisor asks and tells you to do. You will only correspond with other individuals, family members, other professionals, especially about client care under the direction of the SLP. You have to maintain confidentiality. You have to dress appropriately. You need to get all of your assignments done for the placement that we have in my MTI. You need to complete a site evaluation, and you need to present yourself in a professional manner at all times. So within this course, you are going to read and sign this page and then submit it to me before you start your fieldwork placement. This is a self-evaluation form. I almost said new because I had an email pop up that had the word new in it. Anyway, it's a self-evaluation form of a therapy session. So before you go into your first therapy session, this would be excellent for you to look at, to think about, am I really ready to do this? How ready am I, and what do I need to change? After you've completed your therapy session, this would be another great tool to determine, were you really as prepared and accurate as you thought you were going to be with these skills. It's a fantastic talking tool for you to use with your supervising SLP. You can complete it and the SLP can complete it, and you can compare your ratings. This is an optional tool for you to use. You are not required to submit it, but again, it might be used for documenting your communication and feedback with each other. By now, you're accustomed to signing confidentiality agreement statements, and SLPA 240 is no different. It is even more important that you maintain confidentiality during this fieldwork placement. So we have one that is specific for your SLPA fieldwork experience. You will sign it and send it in to me during your SLPA 235 class, and I will provide a copy of it to your fieldwork site. One of your assignments during your fieldwork placement will be to complete a case study on one of the clients that you work with. This is different than the student projects that have been introduced in SLPA 235. That is to get you started with a particular student. This case study assignment is different. It could be the same client that you plan that first therapy session for. It might be a different client that your supervising SLP works with. Whatever the case, most of the time the individuals you will be working with directly are children or are individuals who have sustained some type of an injury that makes it difficult for them to give informed consent. So we need to have a consent for release of information that is signed by the client's parent, guardian, caregiver, whoever is in charge of making those decisions. So that form is included in your packet. Well, this form is not displaying well on my screen at all, but the information is there for you. So this is a weekly activity log. You will be logging all of your fieldwork activities in Trajexis, and your supervising SLP will be verifying those activities in Trajexis. So unlike observation class, you will not need to upload these weekly activity logs to me. Yay. And I don't need to check them because that is what your supervising SLP is going to do. It's much harder to do in observation when you have multiple supervisors, but we can do it that way for fieldwork since you have one, maybe two supervising SLPs. So all of this information is going to be on one page, and we won't have this nasty section break there. And this is going to be the form that you use like a worksheet to write down everything you are doing each day. And it is a two-sided form. So when you print it off, duplex it front and back. So we have one side that will be for direct service activities. These are things that you do with clients directly, providing screening and treatment services. And again, in Trajexis, just like we had for observation, the fields I have listed across here are exactly the fields you have in Trajexis. What date did the activity take place? What was the age of the client? Remember that just like we did with observation, if you've got two age categories, you're going to pick one. Activity category, they're the same ones that we used in observation. If you do a group session with two, you're going to have to pick one of those when you get into Trajexis. You're going to log your time in hours and minutes in 5-minute intervals, and then your client's initials are going to go into that comments section. I would also encourage you to put in any information that you think will be helpful to your SLP supervisor when they come back, probably at the end of the week, and go into Trajexis and have to verify what you logged there. You really need to put these things into Trajexis every day or every other day, and you absolutely need to be documenting them on your worksheets as you go along. I encourage you to fill these out and to keep them so that if your supervising SLP has any questions about what you've recorded in Trajexis, you have some documentation. This is the flip side of that same activity log form. So all of this information up at the top will be the same. Date, and then your major study in Trajexis you're going to enter as fieldwork indirect service. And then all of these activities are listed there for you to choose from. And then you can put in how much time you did that activity and the comments to, again, help your SLP supervisor understand what you did. You may choose to combine activities throughout a day. You cannot combine direct treatment services. Those need to be individualized by client or group. But if you spend, let's say, 10 minutes in the morning filing, and then you see some clients with your supervising SLP, and then you spend another 20 minutes doing that clerical task in the afternoon. It is fine to do clerical tasks 30 minutes, and then in your comments you can write something like 10 minutes at 8 a.m. and 20 minutes at 12 p.m. or something like that. You know how I feel about the term lesson plan versus treatment session plan, but this was not my form. It came from one of our resources, so I'm not going to change it here. But we included this one because it is very similar to the treatment session planning forms that you are used to using with your objective. Materials and activity used to be in 2 columns. We've put them into 1. You're not going to be writing out. You're not going to have time to write out exactly what you're going to do for the sequence of the activity. So let's put that together. Now we have a box for you to collect the data in, and again, your modifications to make it easier or more difficult. You can also see that we have room for 3 objectives. So you might be able to plan 3 different objectives that you're going to work on with one client in one session on this form, or maybe you'll do Monday's session here, Tuesday's session here, and Thursday's session here if you see that client 3 times in a week. Or maybe you've got some sessions with some students that have some basic articulation goals, and so we're going to put student at 8:30 here and student at 8:50 here and a student at 9:10 here. However you want to do that, as long as it's okay with your supervising SLP, is fine with me. You will not be submitting these to me. Last but not least, we have our Fieldwork placement feedback form. This is where you get to provide feedback about the site and your supervising SLP. It goes directly to me because you complete it in Trajexis at the end of your fieldwork experience. And there are ratings for the supervisor and for the fieldwork placement site. And we also want you to provide comments about what worked well or what changes you would like to have made or anything like that. I do share this information in a filtered format with the supervising SLP. So it is okay for you to suggest something that you think would work better. If I feel that it is not diplomatically worded, I will change it, and I will always present it in a way that does not make that SLP feel like you were putting them down. So you want to be honest in it. If you really feel like you need to document something there, but you're concerned about that getting shared with the supervising SLP, you can let me know. We'll talk about it and decide together how to handle that.